Hi, my name is Joseph Parker, WBO champion of the world, and you're watching Sporting Icons.
Okay, so for those of you who's been with me for a little while, you'll be fully aware that each and every month I go through the sanctioning bodies to see what they have ranked, who, what, where and when, try and justify their positions, speak about the sanctioning body as a whole, and all that kind of good stuff. So in this one, we're going to talk about the IBF. They are a little bit late releasing their world heavyweight rankings for the IBF, the top 15, compared to, say, the WBA and the WBC, who released theirs earlier on in the month. Hey, better late than never. But in this one, when we're talking about the top 15 of the IBF, try and justify all their positions. I'll point out any kind of changes compared to last month, what it is that each of these fighters have done recently, what it is that they've got coming up. We're going to talk about the mandatory position and that as well. Now, when it comes to the IBF, based on the videos that I've been doing recently, talking about all the sanctioning bodies, and of course the polls involving many of you, most people believe that the IBF is the best sanctioning body. Not that they're perfect, of course not, but compared to the rest, they have their rules and they stick to their rules, even if that means that they're going to be harsh. For example, they have a mandatory. They will call their mandatory, doesn't matter who the champion is, doesn't matter if they're a superstar or not, they will strip you. And their history has proven this. They're a little harsh, but at least they have their rules and they do stick with them, compared to the others who do tend to be a little bit more flexible at the best of times, is a polite way of putting it. Anyway, this is the top 15 for the IBF in the heavyweight division. Anthony Joshua is, of course, the IBF World Heavyweight Champion. He'll be defending this belt and, of course, his other belts as well against the WBO mandatory Oleksandr Usyk this weekend at the Tottenham Hotspur Football Stadium. This, of course, will be shown on DAZN worldwide, and here in the UK, Sky Sports box office. Maybe Anthony Joshua's final fight on Sky Sports. We'll have to wait and find out about that. Anyway, number one is Vacant. And the reason that it's vacant is because they need the final eliminator to take place so they can fulfill that position, or fill that position, with the official mandatory. Filip Hrgovic is in the final eliminator. Who his opponent is, we don't know. What we do know is Filip Hrgovic has gone pretty much up and down these rankings and nobody wants to fight him for this position. By the looks of it, it may well be Martin Piccoli. We're going to talk about that as this video goes along. So either way, that's why it's currently vacant. They're waiting for that to be fulfilled for the mandatory position. Number two, I walked this earth like a god, Charles Martin. Prince Charles Martin, former IBF World Heavyweight Champion. Of course, he lost that strap to Anthony Joshua, and Anthony Joshua's 16th professional fight. Got stopped in round number 2. But Charles Martin, 2 losses on his resume. 1 to Anthony Joshua, of course. The other one to Adam Kanaki, which was an absolute war. If you haven't seen that fight, it was a bit of a barn burner. I do suggest going to watch it. Charles Martin doesn't have an opponent coming up. Who's he going to fight? I would like him to fight, say, Luis Ortiz. He doesn't have an opponent either. We'll have to wait and see. But apparently Charles Martin wanted no smoke. And Luis Ortiz wanted no smoke with Otto Wallin, according to Otto Wallin. So I have to wait and find out what Charles Martin does next. Oleksandr Usyk, number 3. His WBO mandatory. Is this a bit of a waste of a position? Arguably, because obviously if he beats Joshua, he becomes the IBF champion, along with the WBA and the WBO, of course. But is it a waste of a position? In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. Okay, but either way, former cruiserweight, undisputed world champion. Will he become world champion this weekend? Me personally, I hope not. But for many of you, you of course hope that he will. Anyway, number 4, Filip Hrgovic, 13-0 Croatian. Seems to be a bit of a boogeyman, doesn't he? As I said before, he's in the final eliminator to become the mandatory. For love nor money, he can't seem to get an opponent over the line. The likes of, say, Luis Ortiz has turned down the fight. Andy Ruiz Jr. has turned down the fight. Michael Hunter, of course, famously has turned down the fight, as have many other fighters. Tony Yoka and that, for example, as well. So he does seem to be a bit of a boogeyman. So let's wait and see what opponent he gets to see if he can jump into that number 1 position. Number 5, former WBO World Heavyweight Champion, Joseph Parker. Again, 2 losses on his resume. 1 to Anthony Joshua, where he tried to unify. And in the very next fight, lost to Dillian the Body Snatcher White, who, of course, is the WBC Interim World Heavyweight Champion. Again, I get asked this each and every video when I do the sanctioning bodies, why a certain fight is not ranked on this list. So, for example, Tyson Fury is not ranked in the IBF because he's WBC World Heavyweight Champion. Dillian White is not ranked on this list because he's WBC Interim World Heavyweight Champion. Deontay Wilder is not ranked on this list because he's fighting for the WBC World Heavyweight title on October 9th against Tyson Fury. So that's 3 names as an example as to why they're not ranked. Everybody else really should be, maybe with the exception of Trevor Bryan, who's the WBA regular World Heavyweight Champion. Yeah, it's a joke, but what can you do? Either way, Joseph Parker number 5, he's going to be fighting Derek Chisora in December in a rematch. Again, that will be on DAZN. So be very, very interesting to see if he can do a better job on Derek Chisora, or Derek Chisora can complete the win. Be very interesting to see what happens with that one. Number 6, Tony Yoka, 2016 Olympic gold medalist, where of course he beat Joyce in the final. Some would say via robbery. But either way, Tony Yoka, 11-0. He's got a very decent resume for only 11 fights in. In fact, his last fight against, was it Peter, I believe he was about 15 or 16-0 at the time. Did have a couple of decent wins on his resume in that as well. But Tony Yoka stops him quite comfortably. Okay, so Tony Yoka looking real good. I am disappointed that he turned down the Filip Hrgovic fight. That would be a very, very interesting fight. Both these guys are around about the same kind of level. So for me, it would have been a bit of a pick 'em as to who won it. But Tony Yoka doesn't seem like he's confident in taking on someone like that. But Tony Yoka has actually turned down Joyce in that before as well. Who knows why? Either way, as I said before, decent resume with the likes of Johan Dewapa and a Dave Allen and that on his resume as well. So he fulfills number 6. Number 7 is the WBC Silver champion in Joyce, 13-0. Now he's moved up 1 position. I forgot to mention Tony Yoka's actually moved up by 3 positions because of his win over Petr Milas. But Joyce has moved up 1 position. Don't know why he's moved up 1 position, because he hasn't fought since he defeated Carlos Takam last time out. But him being WBC Silver Champion, is this a waste of a position? Arguably, especially as he is also the WBO mandatory. Quite how he became WBO mandatory, I have no idea. Outside of Frank Warren has a very good relationship with the WBO, because he hasn't fought a final eliminator to do that. What can he do? Boxing politics. But Joyce looking really, really good. Of course, he is being fast-tracked. Excellent resume so far for only 13 fights in, with the likes of Dan Dubois on there, a Bryant Jennings, on his resume. Carlos Takam, of course, is a decent win as well. In fact, he's got a very good resume for only 13-0. Who's he going to fight next? Be very, very interested to find out. Very interested. Apparently, Luis Ortiz has turned down the fight. Joseph Parker turned down the fight as well, so he can go rematch Derek Chisora. Derek Chisora turned down the fight with Joyce, so he can go rematch Joseph Parker. So it doesn't look like Joyce may be fighting anybody or anybody that maybe he could put on box office, on BT Sport box office, unless of course BT Sport get bought out by DAZN by the time he fights, or any other company. But either way, he fills the number 7 position. Number 8, Azure Cabrio, the former European heavyweight champion, 21-0 from Germany. Yeah, but he has Turkish descent, I believe. But Cabrio, he's only got really, well, at least in my opinion, he's got 1 decent win on his resume, Derek Chisora. That was quite some time ago in Monte Carlo, and Derek Chisora turned up without a trainer in his corner. But he seems to be a very inactive fighter at the best of times, and when he does fight, doesn't fight anybody that gets people excited. So before the end of the year, I'd love to see him come out again, fight. I don't know if he's got a fight scheduled. I didn't even look, to be honest. But hopefully he fights somebody worth a damn. I want to see him justify this position. Number 8 is quite a high position. He needs to justify it. Go fight Joyce. Why not? Why not? We know Azure Cabrio, he vacated the European heavyweight title when the EBU ordered him to defend it against Joyce. So you can call that a duck, can't you? Azure Cabrio, of course, he was linked to be fighting Tyson Fury back in December. Of course, that fight didn't happen. Did Cabrio accept the fight? We don't know. We don't really know the details. But I'd like to see Azure Cabrio step it up. I really would. Number 9, Andy Ruiz Jr. He's dropped down by 2 positions. So he beat Chris Arreola quite recently, relatively recently, and has now dropped down by 2 positions. Of course, former unified heavyweight champion, not to be confused with undisputed, by the way, but unified heavyweight champion, WBO, WBA, IBF, and IBO, when he defeated Anthony Joshua. Of course, he lost all those belts in a one-sided victory by Anthony Joshua, where he just got absolutely outclassed. But since then, he took quite some time off. He's in camp with Saul Canelo Alvarez, Ryan Garcia, Frank Sanchez, and others, Oscar Valdez, under Eddie Reynoso. But currently, he's out for a while due to surgery, so I wouldn't expect to see him before the end of the year. Either way, number 9, Andy Ruiz Jr. Number 10, King Kong, Luis Ortiz. 32 wins and 2 defeats. Both those defeats, Deontay Wilder. But again, Luis Ortiz is one of these kind of guys. Fanboys of Deontay Wilder will call him the boogeyman. He ain't no damn boogeyman. In fact, he turns down fights left, right, and centre. He's turned down $2 million to fight Dillian Whyte. Fact. Turned down $7 million to fight Anthony Joshua. Fact. Apparently, according to Joe Joyce, which I did a video yesterday on, he just recently turned down Joe Joyce. According to Otto Wallin, he's turned down Otto Wallin as well. So who exactly does Luis Ortiz want to fight? He's going to keep on fighting gatekeepers and journeymen until he gets a world title crack? Who knows? But he certainly ain't getting any younger. In fact, he's getting older and older by the day. Either way, number 10, for me, it's a little bit too high. Number 11, Dempsey McKean, 19-0. I'd like to see him step up. Yes, he does have a victory over Jonathan Ruiz, who had, was it 3 or 4 losses at the time anyway. But Jonathan Ruiz has recently defeated a prospect in Michael Coffey. I say prospect, I mean, I know Michael Coffey ain't no youngster, but he was undefeated, tipped to do pretty big things by the PBC. So Dempsey McKean has a win over Jonathan Ruiz. So that's probably his best win, in my opinion. For those of you who know him a little better than what I do, may pull out a different name. But for me, Jonathan Ruiz is probably his best one. I'd like to see him step up. Apparently he's a southpaw. I haven't actually seen him fight, but I heard he's a southpaw. So that'd be interesting. Maybe Dillian Whyte can get him in for some southpaw sparring ahead of the Otto Wallin fight. We'll have to wait and see. But either way, he's number 11. And I want to see Dempsey McKean fight somebody in this top 15. Please justify your position. Pretty please, with a cherry on top. Do Australia proud, okay? Come out fighting. Fight somebody in this top 15. Go fight Azure Cabrio if you have to. Number 12, Otto Wallin. 22 wins, 1 defeat. That one defeat was to Tyson Fury, where he took Tyson Fury to hell in a handbasket, let's be honest. Yes, I thought Tyson Fury won that fight quite comfortably on points, but each round, Otto Wallin was very, very competitive in, and even hurt Tyson Fury on a couple of occasions, especially in the final round, outside of the 2 cuts that Tyson Fury sustained. But he's going to be fighting Dillian Whyte for the WBC interim world heavyweight title on October the 30th at the O2 Arena. Again, that'll be on DAZN. So that's going to be a very, very interesting fight. Otto Wallin, quite clearly not afraid to step up. He stepped up against Tyson Fury to justify his position, where he's ranked quite high in the WBO. Then, of course, he's recently fought Dominic Brazil, and now he's going to fight Dillian Whyte. So you have to give Otto Wallin all the credit in the world that he will test himself. So full credit to Otto Wallin. Number 13, Zhilei Zhang. 22 wins, 0 defeats, 1 draw. That one draw, was it Jerry Forrest, I think his name was? When I watched that fight, I thought Jerry Forrest won that fight. I thought Zhilei Zhang was very, very fortunate to not only survive the fight, but to get a draw. Now, I know that Zhilei Zhang, he was the silver medalist in 2008 at the Olympics. He had a pretty decent amateur career, but as a pro, he's been found wanting. I don't know whether age is starting to catch up with him, or maybe lack of sparring. Maybe he's not getting quality sparring over there in China. I don't know. But of course, Eddie Hearn's got him under the Matchroom banner. This is obviously a sign that Matchroom, DAZN, want to make it big in China. DAZN is already in China, where it's a huge market for combat sports, especially boxing. Don't be surprised if you see one of Eddie Hearn's top fighters go over to China at some point, take on Zhilei Zhang, because that would be a mega fight in China. I think I just said Japan, I didn't mean to. But in China, where maybe Zhilei Zhang will end up fighting, say, Anthony Joshua or a Dillian Whyte or something like that at some point. Don't be surprised if that happens. But in order for that to happen, Zhilei Zhang needs to improve drastically over his last couple of fights. He really, really needs to prove it. For me, he's a loss waiting to happen right now, unless he really starts to knuckle down and get on with it. Anyway, he's number 13. Number 14, Huey Fury, 25-3. 3 defeats are Joseph Parker, Alexander Povetkin, and Kubrat Pulev. In all of those fights, he was very, very competitive in. Let's be honest, Huey Fury will be fighting again as part of his new Sky Sports deal and Boxer on October 16th in my home city of Newcastle. For me, Huey Fury, very, very underrated fighter. I know he gets like a lot of stick from people, in my opinion, unfairly. Okay, but again, it's up to him to prove me right and many of you wrong, or many of you right and many other people wrong. However it may work out, okay? But for me, he's young enough to have learned from these experiences, and I think he has learned from these experiences. And his fight against Christian Hammer, is it a barn burner? No, not really, of course not. You would fully expect Huey Fury to win. But after this fight, I want to see Huey Fury take on someone in this top 15. And I think Huey Fury will. I don't think Huey Fury shies away from fights. The only time I ever accused him of it was when he didn't go to New Zealand to fight Joseph Parker. But at least he did find Joseph Parker, so we have to give him a lot of credit, especially at that part of his career. And so he is very young. He has missed out on a good 18 months of his career anyway, due to his skin condition a few years ago. But now it's time to really show that you are about that life. You are one of the top guys in the heavyweight division. If he believes that he is the top guy, let's see it. After Christian Hammer, let's see him take on a Filip Hrgovic or a Tony Yoka or Luis Ortiz or Andy Ruiz Jr. Of course, he was meant to fight Andy Ruiz Jr. a few years ago. Then Andy Ruiz Jr. pulled out last minute to go fight Joseph Parker for the vacant WBO World Heavyweight title, which of course is a fair point to do. But either way, let's see Huey Fury, see if he can climb these rankings and justify a top 15. I think he is a top 15 fighter, but I need him to prove it to the rest of the world. And I believe that he will. Number 15, Martin Piccoli, fought a couple of days ago, or maybe yesterday, no, a couple of days ago in Dubai against an absolute pudding. And of course, he's trained by Billy Nelson, Martin Piccoli, and everyone just want to call out the likes of Dillian White, want to call out this fighter, that fighter. But that's all they seem to be doing is calling them out. Not fighting them. Apparently he turned down Filip Hrgovic as well. But again, maybe that fight is still alive and we can see that towards the end of the year. We know that one of the reasons why he hasn't really been fighting here in the UK as he has been is due to visa issues. So hopefully he gets all that sorted out, gets over here, trains over here with Billy Nelson in Scotland full time. Then we get to see Martin Piccoli continue his career at the level that he has been and maybe even higher. If he believes in himself, if Billy Nelson believes in himself, then let's not fight any more puddings, okay? Let's fight Huey Fury. Is there any reason why that fight can't happen? Let's see him fight, say, Azure Cabrio or ideally Filip Hrgovic. I mean, I still can't believe that all these fighters turned down Filip Hrgovic to the point where they had to get to Martin Piccoli as his number 15. But still, on paper, it's a very, very interesting fight. So either way, that is the top 15 of the IBF. Overall, not bad. Of course, there's a few positions that I would certainly move around, but that's always going to happen. That's the way of boxing, fans. Okay, everything's always going to be subjective, where we're never ever going to agree 100%, all of us, with every single position of any kind of ranking system. A lot of it will be down to some people know more about boxers and fighting styles than others. Other people, they will put it down to personal feelings because they like a certain fighter more than another. So again, you're never going to agree. But I think not too bad. Not too bad. Okay, so either way, hopefully some of these fighters justify their position by the end of the year. Hopefully, we'll have to wait and see. Drop your thoughts below, click thumbs up, subscribe. Catch you on the next video.